you a presentation of what I have to say on taxation. Now, in the Indian case, direct taxes as a whole, right now they are constituting about 6.5%. Direct taxes actually constituted about simply 2.5 to 3% of GDP for the entire period from 1950 running almost till about 2000. So for a 50-year period, direct taxes were something like about 2.5 to 3% of GDP. And it is only from about 2000 onwards, in the last 7-8 years, that direct taxes as a fraction of GDP have been slowly increasing, and now they are at about 6.5%. Now, this has occurred as a result of some major and conscious changes in tax policy which were brought about in 1991. At the beginning of the reform, economic reform phase in India. You will recall that in 1991, Dr. Manmohan Singh came in as the finance minister, and one of the first things that he thought of doing was to set up a taxation inquiry committee, which was headed by, some of you might recall, a person by the name of Rajan Chalaya. He was the chairperson of the taxation inquiry and taxation reform. And this committee gave its recommendation interim report came in 1992, and by 1993, the major recommendations were all given. Now, let me split up my comments on taxation into two halves. One on direct taxes, another on indirect taxes. Let me begin with direct taxes. Many of you will be quite knowledgeable about how direct taxes have been in India, let's say from the 60s onwards. If you look at the direct taxes and their structure from 1960s, well, late 60s onwards, what you will see is that direct taxes, many of you will recollect that in the late 60s, early 70s, direct taxes had many points of graduation. Taxation would start, there would be an exemption limit, and then there would be, after the exemption limit, tax would be at, let's say, 12% or so the first way, then increasing to, let's say, 15%, then 18%, and so on. So about 13, 14, or 15 points of graduation in different scales. With the top rate, anybody remember? 97. The top rate was 97. So you had a process of graduation that went from as low as 12%, 13% or so to 97%. Now, that was the structure of taxes in India, and by the way, that was also the structure of taxes in many of the European countries, including UK. Now, that was leading to two kinds of effects. One was an outright tax evasion, certainly in the Indian context. When you find that the last 100 rupees that you are earning, if you are honest about it, you actually retain only 3 rupees. You have to part with 97 rupees, if you are honest. Okay. Now, that is one kind of impact. But the other kind of impact is, so many people were evading tax evasion. But it also had the effect of inefficiency and distortive behavior, which is that confronted with a 97% marginal tax rate, many people would simply not put in the labor effort to earn the income in the first place. See, because you ask yourself, why would you earn that 100 rupees if 97 rupees are to be given out? Now, a similar kind of situation was there in many of the European countries also, and it was there in UK when we had 97% as the top rate. In fact, UK in the late 60s had 95% at the top rate. Now, this led many economists to ask the question as to whether we should not be reforming direct tax. Whether we should not be reforming direct tax. And one major economist, and let me get the name of this person. Maybe some of you know it, because I find that many things that I'm saying you already know. Anybody knows of a very major economist who contributed to, let's say, a totally new kind of thinking on direct taxes? Somewhere in the 70s, which has brought about a sea change in direct taxes. Because today, you look at the Indian tax system, what is the tax? There's an exemption limit, there's a 10%, 20%, 30%. That's all. Just a three-rate structure. There are many countries in the world, in Europe also, which now have simply a two-rate structure. It can be, let's say, 15%, 20%, that's all. Or 15%, 25%. Just 2 rates, not 15 rates as used to happen. There are many countries which are also going for a single rate structure, single rate. You can have an exemption limit and then tax at, let's say, 25%. That's all. For anything over and above, that's all. Now, how would that look? Let me draw a picture. This is income, and if this is tax, I'm just drawing a 45-degree line. And if there is an exemption limit E, you can have a single rate structure. Supposing you choose a 30% rate structure, then tan of this angle is 0.3. That's all. That's a single rate structure. And what we today have in India is some exemption limit, 10% rate, 20% rate, 20% rate, and then a 30% rate. Okay, that's almost linear, but not exactly. This is what we have right now. Okay. Now, there was one particular economist, or a group of economists, but led by a particular person, who suggested that rather than have a 15 undergraduated structure ending with 95-97%, we have a rate structure that has a top cap not much beyond 20-35% or 70%. In India, Kelkar is very well known, but this is much from the writings of a number of major theoretically, and that's a great name. The name is James Burley. But I'm happy that you are mentioning Vijay Kelkar because, yes, after the Maya committee, much later the Vijay Kelkar committee also did a comprehensive, I think the Kelkar committee.
It was in 1992.